Oh, sorry. I could not log on, but now I can. I am here. Technological genius that I am. I've only done this a million times. I could not log on, and now I've been trying to do it like on every browser, on every device that I have. I finally figured it out. Hello. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. Today, folks, we are talking about, I'm just going to try to set up this camera a little bit better, about how to keep your shoulders safe in handstands. Hello. Again, forgive me for the tardiness. I am always on time in real life. I just was completely unable to log on, having a little bit of a panic over here, but I got it sorted out. My camera is completely diagonal. You're gonna live, it's gonna be okay. Here we are. Hope you are having an amazing Friday. Okay, let's talk shoulders. Sorry that there's a little bit of an echo. I'll speak slowly just in case. Keep in mind, guys, as with everything that I teach, I'm not here to tell you that my way is the right way or the only way. What I'm telling you is that this is the way that works for me. I'm going to explain why I do this the way that I do this so you can decide what is best for you and your body. Okay. If you're not familiar with my handstand breakthrough revolution, just a reminder, I guess if you're not familiar, it's not a reminder. If you are familiar, it is a reminder that I have an enormous promotion for anybody who is really honestly, seriously serious about mastering your handstands. I have an unbelievable promotion going on this week. That means just until Sunday. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So be sure to comment if you want more information about how you can join in. Just making sure that everything is working out. I think that it is. Let's get into it. Okay, folks, today we are talking about shoulders. I'll be checking the live chat after I'm done with the instruction, just so you know. So if you have questions, I've got answers. Before we get into how the shoulders actually work in handstands for maximum stability and safety, let's talk for a moment about the anatomy of a shoulder. Now, I hope your eyes don't glaze over because the anatomy is very, very relevant. If you're not familiar, on our body, we have two major I was gonna say ball and chain. It's not a ball and chain. Ball and socket joints. There are joints with the most mobility. They are, when I say two, what I mean is four. Two meaning two shoulders is one, two legs is two. Now, if you're not familiar, I won't take too much time, but this is important to understand. In your shoulder, the socket is sort of like a cup, okay? You could see, if you just put your hand on your shoulder, you'll understand it's like a cup, right? If I put my arm on my elbow, it's not like a cup. If I put my arm on my ankle, it's not like a cup. But this is shaped exactly like a cup because it's what it is. Now, we have what's called the humerus, okay? The humerus, it's my favorite bone. Okay, maybe I'm an anatomy geek, but yes, I have a favorite bone. Why is the humerus my favorite bone? Because it's this bone here, and it's your funny bone. Ha ha. Right? So the word humerus and funny, right? If you hit your elbow, it tingles. Okay, that's why it's my favorite bone. Okay, so by the way, you know all the echo I have? You see these are my yoga mats that I always have off screen, but when I'm on YouTube live, they wind up on screen trying to like get rid of some of the echo. in my studio. Just know I'm here for you. I'm trying my best. Okay, let's get back to the ball and socket. Ball is the shoulder socket. And then we've got the actual femur, right? Humerus, my favorite bone. How did I get that wrong? I feel like Joe Biden. Sorry. I didn't mean that as a political thing. It was just that whole thing about calling Kamala Harris Trump yesterday was a little bit like calling my humerus a femur. Okay, humerus. Shoulder socket. It fits in like this. Why is that important? Because it has a lot of rotation, a lot of movement, right? Our shoulder happens to be our most mobile joint. Our second most mobile joint would be our hip joint, our femur. My second favorite bone, if I had to have a second favorite bone, because it's the biggest bone. But the hip bone also the hip socket has a lot of rotation. So when I have my shoulder, if you could imagine that the ball is going into the socket like this, which do you think is going to be more stable? Something that's like this, literally engaged right in the socket, or something that's more like this, where there's more room for the humerus to sort of wiggle around. It's still connected either way. I'm not talking about like a dislocated shoulder, okay? But we can either embed or we can pull it away. Which do you think logically is going to be more stable? Da na 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 na. Da na na na. Okay, Jeopardy is over. Now, in a lot of yoga poses where flexibility is our main key, then it's going to help to have some space sometimes between the humerus and the shoulder. But when we're looking for stability, we're looking to embed. Why? Because now my arm is staying in place. My whole I'm having some real troubles articulating today. My whole entire body weight is now on my thin little arms. So obviously I want as much stability as possible. When I have play, when my arm can move around in the socket, then I am opening myself up to tears, pulls, and other injuries. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. That is our starting point today. Okay, now, how do I actually embed my shoulder? And then we're going to talk about how that plays out in your handstand. I actually like to teach this on the wall at first because I think visually it makes a little more sense, and I recommend that you do this as well. If you stand with your arm, let me turn this camera so it's facing the wall a little more. Okay. If you have you stand pretty close to the wall, okay? You have your arm on the wall, okay? You might have to play with the distance like I have to. If I pull away from the wall, I can feel how my humerus is sort of loosening in the socket. Now watch what it looks like when I embed. So you see how my whole body moved in to the wall. Can you do that? So feel what it feels like to sort of pull away. This is where your arm is loose in the socket and not going to be as safe in your handstand or as stable. And then just feel by pulling your humerus into the socket. Okay? Now, my body moves forward, not because I'm moving my body forward, but because I'm literally shortening the distance between my shoulder and my wrist by pulling the arm into the socket. Hopefully that works for everybody. Now let me show you what it looks like when my hands are on the floor. Okay, I want to be close enough that you can get that. So this is up, this is embedded, this is loose, embedded. Try that as well. When you do this, what you're going to feel is it's almost a bit of a cat-cow action. That's not random, by the way. A lot of people are talking about doing handstands in what I'll call a cat, okay? To me, a cat just means spinal flexion. Why are they saying that? They're saying that because they are working with very, very basic concepts of core engagement. The basic concept of core engagement when we're in like first grade is round, okay? Hopefully everybody knows that when it comes to physiology, when you round your spine like so, it allows the core to engage. You can feel that. Try that. If you just stand up and you round it in, the core engages. Guess what, kids? We're not in first grade anymore. By the way, if you haven't seen my secret to all of yoga video, and there's a prequel and there's a sequel, watch that because that is all about how to effectively engage your core. Now, I'm a big fan of what I call complex engagement versus simple engagement. Simple engagement requires flexion. My complex, which is my secret to all of yoga engagement, requires imagining you have like a vortex of energy here and everything's pulling in, and then maintain that muscular energy as you lift up and expand out, so that you have the same core engagement, but in a spinal extension, which anatomically, folks, is a fancy way of saying back bend. Or it could also just mean like extension, that's fine. So flexion is what I call a cat. Extension is what I call a cow. Notice that when my arm is not embedded, my spine is in flexion. When it is embedded, it starts to go into extension. Flexion, extension. So, let's add that as the third reason to embed your humerus into your shoulder socket. A, safety. B, stability. C, it allows for the extension of your spine, which maximizes the core activity. The more I engage my core, so anybody who's followed me for any length of time knows, no matter what the question, with me, the answer is always core. Core, 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 core. Okay, so this is important. I'm going to get into something related that a student brought up yesterday. But as you embed, right, I'm going to turn this camera again. There we go. Okay, so as I embed, and by the way, I am not the least bit warm for handstands right now, like not even the tiniest bit. Today is my running the stairs day, not my yoga day. So the higher my leg is, I always have a bit of an advantage, right? And I want to look forward and shoulders embed, okay? Because that's going to give me the stability. And by the way, when my shoulders embed, what it also does is it gives me more leverage to press against the floor, because hopefully you know, the more you press down, the more you go up. Does that make sense? So as my body weight presses down into the floor with this embedding, I have more stability for my handstand. When I go up and out, then I lose that really, really strong connection. Does that make sense? Now, yesterday, one of my students brought up to me that she was told to take her shoulders and pull them inwards. This demonstration looks something like this. Now, again, I am not here to tell you that my way is the only way. I'm just going to explain to you why I disagree with that assessment. When the shoulders pull in, I think, first of all, in yoga, we never really want tension in our neck and shoulders. I mean, that's like a big thing in yoga. I can't think of a single pose in yoga that doesn't have a back and down action to an extent in the shoulders in order to keep our shoulders and neck safe. There's that. But what she said was she was told to do that so that her elbows would not bend. Now, it is true that when I pull in, right, when I pull everything in, it basically locks my elbows. And so before we go on, let me just ask you, what have you learned about locking joints? Let's start with the knees, right? Just because it's a similar concept. We learn over and over in yoga, don't lock your knee, right? You always want to have a micro bend to keep your leg safe so that we're not just like locking in. When we're upside down, your elbow is acting like a knee. We take so much pains not to lock our knees in yoga. Do you really think that our goal is going to be to lock our elbows? Now, here's the thing. Not only do we not want to lock the elbows, because honestly, it's gonna compromise our joints when we have so much pressure on it and it has no like room to compensate for different imbalances. But here's what's really interesting, and this wasn't really meant to be the intention of my talk, but the shoulder thing is going to affect the elbows. Believe it or not, folks, we actually do want the elbows to be able to bend in handstand. Why? Well, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna ask first grade you a question, okay? So let's go back to like first grade you. If I say to you, first grade you, show me your muscles. I love asking kids that because they only think they have one muscle. It's their biceps, right? They're gonna do this. Now, how do I ignite my biceps? I bend my elbow, right? If I say show me your biceps, you're not gonna be like, oh, here's my biceps, right? Like I can't ignite my biceps without bending my elbow. Does that make sense? Okay, why is this important to know? Because when it comes to balance, there are two primary elements, okay? We've got alignment, meaning if you can get your body in a straight line and everything's in place, you're just gonna balance. Easy peasy, 1, 2, 3, right? Okay, not as easy. The chances of everything just like going in a line are fairly low. So we've got alignment, but then we've also got strength. Now you know this intuitively. People tell me literally every single day that they don't think they can do handstands because they don't think they're strong enough. I think everybody's strong enough to do handstands, but that's just me. But maybe it's because I tend to believe in people more than they believe in themselves. Okay, we've got alignment, we've got strength. Now, I personally live in Los Angeles and I'm very close to Venice Beach, right? Where there's Muscle Beach, where there's all those like super muscly guys. And here's what's interesting. Ask a super muscly person to do a handstand, and even if they've never done one before, they usually can do it. which is amazing because they don't have any sense of the actual alignment, but they have so much muscle that they're able to muscle their way in. By the way, I do consider myself like a strong woman, but I could never do what like a male gymnast does. Why can they do things that just look like they completely defy gravity? Like the iron cross thing, women don't do, even the rings. Because they have extra upper body muscles that can compensate for something that might be misaligned. Again, we've got two elements, alignment and strength. Now, for normal people, we're using like an average balance of both. And by the way, in case you don't know, the more you can hit your alignment, the less you're going to actually need to use strength. That's when handstands start to become easy. Like literally easy and second nature. So, what am I saying here about the elbows? You actually do want your elbows to be able to bend a little bit. You do want them to have some play. You don't want them to lock, which will happen if you pull in from the shoulders, which again, I disagree with. I think wide shoulders. Because if you watch any handstander, you're gonna see, watch carefully, that there's always gonna be a little bit of the going like this with the elbows. Because your body naturally understands that when the alignment is not perfect, if it ignites the biceps to an extent, it's going to help to salvage the pose. Does that make sense? So I am not a fan of shoulders in. For me, it's hands, shoulders width, or even a little bit wider, and then embed the arm into the socket. Let me show you one more time what that looks like, and then I'll take questions. So, my hands are down, okay? So this would be high, and this is embedded. Again, I encourage you to actually try doing it instead of just watching. Embed. When my leg goes high, I'm pressing down, and my shoulder, I can feel it like literally just connecting. I'm so close to the wall. Connecting to my humerus. From there, I press down to lift up, and watch my elbows. You see how they're straightening and bending a little bit? Because right now, quite honestly, I'm not the least bit warm. So there's going to be a lot of like compensation. Can you see it? You see it? Whoops. So this is a very unimpressive handstand, I know. Okay. I stay with the humerus embedded. As I come down, everything is nice and stable in my arms in order to minimize any chance of injury. Okay, folks. Anybody have questions that I can answer? There's a lot of highs. Adela did it. Nice, Adela. Did you do the handstand or did you embed? Guys, keep in mind that even if you're still working on the handstand, getting the alignments correct is super important. Once again, my handstand breakthrough revolution course will give you literally every single tiny alignment from your hands to your feet that you need to get your handstand. By that, I mean consistent, easy, strong, confident, fearless, in the middle of the room, not facing a wall. If you're interested, make sure to, you could contact me, that's the best way, through my website, YOGAthletica.com. There's one A in the middle of YOGAthletica. And let's see if we can get you into the program. If handstands are a serious goal of yours, I will get you in. So now that we know how the shoulders work, how the elbows work, does anybody have any questions that I can answer for you today before we sign off? Donna, you know, I'll check my my feed over here. So I've got two computers going. Okay, I see no questions. Okay, guys, if you're not familiar, I have dozens of tutorials on my Handstand Mania playlist here. So feel free to go over there. I've got handstands of every level. I also teach one-on-one on Zoom. My students have and make incredible progress. And be sure to check out my Handstand Breakthrough Revolution. I've got an unbelievable deal going on just today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So be sure to contact me, Shana at YOGAthletica.com, if you're interested in joining. Have a wonderful, amazing, incredible, super handstandy, shoulder safe Friday and weekend. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. Signing off, going once, going twice. Have an amazing weekend. Thanks for joining.